On this episode of AC Designs Garage, we're going to show you how to MIG weld thin sheet metal. Coming up. Alright guys, here's a few tools we're going to have for this project today. You're going to need a roll of 2-inch tape of some sort, a good scribe when we lay out our panels, some Sharpies. I really like these Milwaukee's here. They're called ink Zaws or something, I guess you call. I don't know. They work really good. I think they work better than a Sharpie does. Yeah, these work really good. Need a tape measure, need a blowgun to cool our welds with, of course hearing protection. Got these little roll locks. I like these. I start with a 60, especially on the wire weld and stuff. It seems the welds seem a lot harder than usually when I TIG and stuff, so we start with a 60 and finish up with an 80. You need a good cutoff wheel of death. Make sure you're careful with these. These things will hurt you bad. This one here is 35 thousandths, it looks like. The thinner the better on these. Just be careful when you're cutting with them, but just takes out less material and it's a lot easier. And I'm gonna link all this stuff in the description. These are a paint stripping wheel, and these things work awesome. They're 4-inch. You can put them on like your DeWalt grinders and stuff. It's a little air one, or 4.5-inch. But it works great. It strips the paint off. I'll show you here in a minute with it. It strips the paint off, polishes, don't remove any metal or thin it all out and stuff, or get it real hot. So I'll show you it. I really like these, but I'll link these in the description. And here's a little 90-degree grinder for the roll locks and stuff we'll put on there. And all these things I'll link in the description. I got an Amazon affiliate account. You know, it helps out a little. It gives me a little percentage of whatever on qualified purchase. So if you want to help the channel out, just go check that stuff out. And I put it in there to help you guys be able to find it in one place. But here's our subject today. This is an old fender I got at a swap meet off a 68 C10. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to cut this marker light out. I like it without the markers. I just don't like a lot of stuff. I am going to leave the C10 emblem on the back, but I like to get rid of these corner markers, kind of like the 67s came with. But I'm going to show you how to cut this out, weld it fully up, and metal finish it, and show you how to weld these holes up where the little 4-drive emblem is. All right, what I'm gonna do here, guys, instead of, a lot of people do this, and this not wrong. There's a million ways to skin a cat. This the way I do it seems to work out really good. Some people cut a piece out that's basically the size of the tail light, put it in here and weld it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's strong and everything. There's two things that I don't like about doing things this way. It's anytime you lap any kind of metal, we like to butt weld it. So I'm gonna cut all this out. But if you lap metal, anytime you have two pieces of metal together, you have a chance for moisture and rust to start. And the other major thing is when you go to weld metal and stuff, you really need to hammer and dolly it out. And I'll show you real quickly how. Okay, this is just a little demonstration of basically what happens when you weld metal together. So when you weld these two pieces of metal together, it's going to shrink, and this is basically what the metal does. It kind of just pulls it down in the center like this. So what you got to do, and now if you have it double lapped right here, you can't hammer this out good. So if it's like this, you can come on the back side of the dolly, and you can basically run the length of your weld and hammer it and stretch everything back out, because when you do weld it, it shrinks in everywhere you have a spot weld. So if you butt weld everything, you can go around the whole thing and just hammer and dolly and get everything back out, everything good and smooth, to where if you just lay your metal in here, that double layer of metal, you'll never stretch it out enough. You won't be able to hammer it. That's just the benefits. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with doing this. I just like to try to get my stuff metal finished good enough. I mean, I'm not perfect at it, but if we can get it good enough, you don't have to put near as much body work in it. Now this fender has a slight dent here that I'm not going to mess with right now. It's a crease right here. It's almost an 1/8 inch low in the deepest point. I'm going to hammer dolly that later. So you just cut this out. When you get this out, we'll just take this, flip it upside down, lay it on here, and just scribe around it. And when I cut it, I like to cut it just a hair big so we can file it to it, because you don't want no more gap than you can get by with on this. The more gap you have, the more problems you have with it warping and stuff. So I try to get this thing fit really tight, and you ain't got to worry about blowing through and stuff, and it just welds up faster and it just finishes better. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take our paint stripping wheel here and just clean this area out about right in here, just to give us something good. And we'll come back and grind it with an 80 just to clean it up. And then we'll go clean our piece up over here that we're going to use the patch with and get all it ready. Alright, you can see what kind of finish that this does. It does a really nice job. It polishes it. It gets a little warm. Now, if you're doing a huge panel, you'd want to take your time, because believe it or not, grinding and doing this type stuff will warp metal too. So try to get, but this thing don't get it hot, don't throw sparks, it don't take any metal, like material away from it. It just does a really nice job. It don't put really deep gouges in it, so I highly recommend these things. And I think I can't remember it. It was under 40 bucks for a pack of 5 of them. So now we'll get ready to lay it out and stuff, and we'll get ready and cut this piece out, and then I'll show you how to just plug weld these spots. There's no need in trying to cut like a little small circle here. To do these, it'd take forever, but I'll show you how to plug these and back it with a piece of copper and stuff and get a good finish on that also. Here's how I usually do them. There's no rhyme or reason to the shape. I just like to drop down about a 1/4 inch. And when you do it this way, you don't have to have all your measurements perfect. I mean, you really don't have to measure to do this when you just take it off and lay it down and scribe around it. So I just get me some straight lines that are similar to it. Alright, now we'll take our cutoff wheel and go in here and just cut this out, and I'll show you how to transfer it over to your patch piece. Make sure you mark the top of this so when you go to lay it out on your replacement piece here that you know, because it's cut a little different. But what we want to do, this hole now is 35 thousandths bigger all the way around for the thickness of the blade. So when I go to lay this out, I'm going to come up probably, I don't know, probably close to an 1/8 inch all the way around, make it bigger, and we'll just file it and fit to it. But I may come in here, sometimes when cutting it'll cause some distortion, so we'll come in here with a hammer dolly and try to get this as straight as we can before we start welding. Alright, now we're going to clean up our edges and stuff on our piece we're getting ready to lay out for our replacement piece. So I just use the 80 grit on the roll lock to do this. Alright, that should be good enough there. I'll show you how we lay her out. Alright, what we do, we lay it out. We're going to find our top side, so we're going to make this the top. So I always just throw me a T on that so I don't forget. Make sure, and all I do is just flip it over. And I'm going to leave probably I'd say an 1/8 inch around. Give us enough room to get it fit to it real nice. I'd rather have no gap if we can help it, but there'd still be some. So I'm gonna, when I mark this, I'm gonna mark up against it, but the width of the pin is probably pretty close to the gap I need. So I'll make some little reference marks here to make sure I cut on this side of it, and that way we'll know where we need to cut and we don't end up cutting too much off. I mean, if you cut the wrong side and you get gap, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but because they make those little clip things that go in there that puts a gap and holds them and stuff, and those are okay, but I found that I get more warpage on my panel if I use those with gap. Got a little burr on that. So I try not to have any gap. I like TIG welding, works a whole lot better without gap, so I try to pass that along on the MIG. So that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the outside edge and know that's where I need to cut, because I get doing this, I'll forget. And I'll end up cutting the line out, but should have left more room over there, but I can grind that off. And like I said, we'll just grind up to the line, and then we'll stick her in there and see how she works. Now you can use several different ways to cut this. I'm fortunate enough to have a stomp shear. I worked for years and years and years with just 10 snips, and you can use that same cutoff wheel that we cut it out of the fender with and cut it and stuff. But I have stomp shear, so I'm going to use it. I can just have it done in a second. But like I said, you can use cutoff wheels, 10 snips, whatever you want to use. They all work the same. Some of them just work faster. So. See, I left a little line on there. These stomp shears do make life a whole lot easier. So what I do is I just put this line, this outside edge of this line, to where this end of this table ends, right here, and it just chops it off. And that's it. Now we'll grind it to fit the hole over here. Alright, I'm going to lay this in here and see how we fit. Maybe come in from the back. See, it's still, the panel's still a little big, but that's good because we can slowly work it back to fit, have a real good tight fit. Now before I really start fitting this nice, I'm going to put just a little shape. This has just a little contour to it, and like this is dead flat, so I'm just going to basically bend it over my knee and get it pretty close. Like I said, after we get it welded in, we can hammer and dolly it a lot closer and do a little more fine tuning. But we'll take the grinder in here and cut this slag off, or the shavings on the excess, and then we'll try to fit it up. You can either grind this to fit this or this to fit this. It's just whichever. I may do a little of both so I can square these. This has a little hump in it, so I may do a little of each to get it to fit right. But goal is to make that thing fit basically like this right here, not have any gap. So we'll see how we do. All right, now I'm gonna try to bend this. Let's see. See, it's got just a little, that may be too much, but we'll set it up here to see. We can always just take it out, but you can use anything to shape metal, leg, hammers, it don't matter. But yeah, both of them seem to have a little, that may be twisted a little bit, but we'll try it. Yeah, see, that has just a little too much. The peak's high, the peak's up, and these are down, so we got to take a little of that out. All thing you got to do is just, you'd be surprised how much this stuff moves with just a little bit of effort. It's looking like if I take this line completely out, that should be enough, but we're just going to go about halfway through this line and just keep slowly working up to it. Yeah, we still got a little too much peak in this. Well, this has a little dent in it, so I'm just going to, what you want, even though this is dented in, I'm going to make this panel here fit this, and then we'll come back and we'll hammer that radius back into it. This still looks just a hair long, so I'm going to totally just take this line out. So it looks like from here to here, it's a little long here. You can see as it fits down in there real nice. So we need to take a little off this end here. Not a whole lot. Let me clean up in here a little bit. Alright, all this all the way around looks pretty good except for right here. Yeah, let's try here and here. Looks like it needs a little radius this way, so we're going to put a little bit to it. There you guys, that's pretty close. And I use tape. I don't use the magnets. I mean, they work okay, but it seems like it makes the arc want to wander real bad with magnets, especially TIG welding. MIG does too a little bit, so I just use regular old masking tape, hold it up, get you a couple tacks, peel it off, and go with it. But and that's pretty decent. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty close. Probably should have used a file that last time around instead of that, but it'll be good enough. Let's get her taped up and start doing a little arcing and a sparking. Alright, we'll go over my welding setup before I start welding. This is my old Miller-Matic 185. I got this thing when I was in high school, probably 1994 or so. That's when I started playing with the wire welding. I know everybody's machine, unless you got a Miller-Matic 185, I think the new ones, I can't remember if the new ones even have these type settings, but on my machine, and the best thing to do, you flip this, I got so much junk on it, but you flip this open and it tells you, like for 18 gauge or whatever, the start out settings, you can tune it into it. It's best to get whatever thickness of metal you're welding and just put you a couple test strips. I like that, so on my machine, I put it on 2 and probably around 70. We'll see how it does. You want it to hot enough to sink down and lay down nice and flat, but you don't want to build up or blow through, but it's just something that you got to work with. And on my machine, I run a 75-25 mix of carbon dioxide and argon. You just make sure when you turn these things, just barely crack them open, then you can run them out. But I run anywhere from 18 to 20 CFH, cubic feet per hour. It works good for me. But what we're going to do first is I'm going to tape that piece in there. Just put a piece of tape here and a piece of tape here and get it good and centered where I want it. And you got to be careful. I go barehanded when I first start doing this, because there's nothing better than the touch of your finger to tell if something's level or not. You want this thing to feel level. And what you can do, you can take a flat, and I'll grab one, a flat blade screwdriver. After you get that first tack, just feel it and then just hold back and just put your tack there. Then you can take a screwdriver and you can kind of bridge it and work it as you go all the way around. But you just, what we do is I do about spot on each corner or so, and then I'll use my air hose and get it cooled down to the touch, to bare hand. It takes a while, but you don't want to warp it. So I'll go around there, and then after I get it going, I'll do a couple of zap, zap, zaps and cool it good with that, then move over, zap, zap, and just keep working around till we get this whole thing completely welded. And then with the wire welding, you got to grind it down and thin it out a little bit. Where the TIG, you can just hammer it as is, but we'll get it weld around a little bit, and we'll hammer it and get it close and just keep working. It's a slow process. I'll try to speed it up so I don't bore you too bad, but here we go. Forgot to grind my ground spot, so you get to see me do that. So like here, I can feel, rub your finger at that, and you can feel like now it's low, so it's hitting that. What I do is I get it up there. Now my finger's down here and right here, and we'll just keep feeling it, and then we'll come in here and just tack it. Don't get your hand near it because that heat will travel quick, but just be very careful doing it. Basically, I'm gonna get this level and throw a tack on it. Alright, got that one. And if you want to just run around here and find another spot that may be level, like here. That's all you really need to do, just like a 2-second tack. You don't need to hammer on it a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and cool this because the heat will start traveling a lot. That's good to go. Alright, what we're going to have to do is, sometimes when you start welding these, it draws it a little bit, so it'll pull it, and all of a sudden your patch will get a little tight. So what we'll do, you don't want to cut straight into this because you'll get a bigger gap. I like to cut it at a 45-degree angle like this, and it don't leave near as much gap to have to fill up. So we'll try that, and we'll just keep bumping this till, right now that's how all this here fits pretty good. A lot of times I use a screwdriver to push up the metal from the back side. After you get it tacked all the way around, you can come back every half inch or so and do it and then cool it off. Alright, now all we do is go all the way around this weld. Just keep going and cooling, going and cooling. Don't get too much in a hurry. Check it every now and then because you'll warp it if you get too carried away with it. And once we get fully welded up, we'll come back and grind it, and hammer and dial it, and touch up anything we need, and we should be done. Alright guys, forgot to tell you the wire size when I was going over the welder. This is what wire size, the O23. It's what we run in this thing. And the good thing about the O23 is it keeps from building the welds up so high, and it don't carry near as much heat, so you're not going to warp it. So you're going to do a bunch of this sheet metal bodywork rust repair stuff. You need to get you a roll of this O23, and you may have to change your tips and rollers in your machine. I'm not sure how yours are set up, but I just want to show you this before I forgot. Alright, now we're going to go with the flap wheel just to knock the tops off. That air one ain't fast enough for me, so we'll just use this. Another thing you want to watch out for is those grinders will create a lot of heat, so try to cool in between. Alright guys, now we got it ground almost completely all the way down. We still got a little more finishing up and finish grinding on it. But what we're going to do now is take the hammer and dolly and just go around our edge where we welded, and it's going to stretch everything. Because right now, it's like the valleys where the weld is when you weld it, it shrinks down like that. As you hammer it, it'll come up. So you put your dolly on the bottom and hammer right down in top of the V with your hammer. It stretches everything back into place, and you go all the way around it a couple times, and it'll get it pretty close. So here we go. And everywhere you saw me going, I was basically following the dolly up and down on the dolly on the backside. So you get used to it. It comes pretty easy after a while, but it seems like it's coming out pretty well. Still got this dent that was in here before. We may get to it later or something. I just mainly want to get this area here pretty close, and we're gonna grind a little bit more on it. All right, now we're gonna finish it up with this paint stripping wheel. It does a good uniform area on it. And then we'll put a little guide coat on it. Alright, I'm going to show you just on a little spot of this. I'm not taking this body panel this far, but this is to show you how you can get stuff pretty close metal finish. You get a regular sanding block, and you can use anywhere from 120 to 180. You can use Dicom to paint it, but the only problem, if you need to grind it again, Dicom gums up the roll locks pretty bad. So get you a wide tip Sharpie, and basically you just paint the whole thing, the area you're going to do. What it'll do is to show you your low spots. And your low spots, what you can do is you can come behind and pick it up with the hammer, and you come back to this again, and you just keep blocking it. Or if it's a high spot and it takes all the Sharpie off, you can knock it down. You just keep working it back and forth all the way across, and it'll show you highs and lows, and you can get them pretty flat like that. I mean, it's just like doing body work with guide coat and on your primers. But I'll give you a little short example. I'm not going to metal finish this fender. You get that, get your Sharpie on there and let it dry, and then you just block down through here. And as I sand, you can see the high spots here. And generally on either side of your weld is going to be a high spot, and your weld will be a low. So that just tells me that I need to hammer from the back side, put my dolly up here, and bring this section up. Or you can, if these feel high to you, you can hammer these down until basically you want to be able to sand this whole thing until all the colors are gone. I'll see if I can hammer this spot right here up, and or one of these in here, and see if you can tell the difference. I'm gonna hammer this one up here. Now let's see if any of that Sharpie will disappear. Well, I was off a little bit because I hammered this up. You can see where this came out. So what you do is you just got to slowly work it up and keep blocking it off. This could actually be a little high, so we'll take it down. When it's high, you put your dolly on the back side. But that's basically how you do it. That's what they used to call pecking and filing, but that's how we don't use files, we just use sanding blocks. But all right guys, one last trick I want to show you. When you're filling small holes, these here are probably 1/4 inch or larger. I mean, you can fill pretty big holes with this method. I have a piece of copper. You can take like a piece of 1-inch copper tube and like get your plumbing section at like Lowe's or something and smash it. This is just a big flat piece we got. And your wire weld will not stick to this copper. Make sure you're wearing a glove on this, because copper is a great heat sink and it will suck the heat out of stuff, but this thing gets hot. So Basically what you want to do, if you can see, see the copper back there, you hold this back behind it, and while that's back behind it, you'll go around the outside edge and like zap, 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 zap to the middle. Then you can just break the copper off and it backs it real well, and it keeps from shooting wire all through. It just helps basically dam up the weld for you. But that's one of the last things we're going to do. I tell you, I think it turned out pretty good on there for wire weld. Most of the time I TIG weld this stuff, but I want to show you guys, not everybody has a TIG welder, and this can be done with wire welding. You just got to take your time, keep it cool and stuff. But all right, we're going to get plugging these welds, a little arcing and a sparking, and we'll be done. All right, we'll take our copper and back the hole and just weld it up and then cool her off. All right, we're going to plug the other hole. Pull her off real quick. I'll grind them down real quick for you so you can see it. I tell you, I really like these little things here. Like I said, I'm gonna link these in the description. You'll love these things. You just gotta be careful on like really sharp edges. That's the only thing that'll cut them loose. But man, if you're gonna clean up something flat like this or just strip paint, these things are the ticket. Alright guys, hope y'all enjoyed this little trick here. Like I said, you can use this for rust repair or shaving stuff like we did here. We shaved the marker light that was in here, it's gone, or shave emblems, whatever you want to do. Once you learn these few little skills here, just remember to take your time. You guys can do anything at your home garage. So, hope you enjoyed it. God bless. We gone.